The Denobulan Sire Father scoffed with derision when Captain Reyes requested an audience, spitting insults at the pathetic, primitive humans who dared seek an alliance, not realizing her arrogance would soon turn to ashes as she begged the humans for mercy on her knees. Reyes gritted his teeth at the Sire Father's taunting message, his jaw clenched tight. He responded with an even, measured tone, fingers tapping the comms controls. "This is Captain Nicholas Reyes of the UES Intrepid. We come in peace, seeking cooperation between our peoples. I respectfully request permission to send an envoy to open discussions." A harsh laugh crackled over the speakers. The Sire Father's face appeared on screen, her mocking sneer sending anger flaring through Reyes's gut. "You presume much human to think we would sully ourselves with your kind. Your technology is a child's toy next to our might. We have conquered 100 worlds. You have nothing we need." Reyes forced his voice to stay level, his knuckles white on the armrests. "Sire Father, I believe both our peoples could benefit from—" "Enough. You may send 3 representatives, no more. They will be unarmed or they will be killed on sight. You have 1 rotation to comply." The screen went black. Reyes pinched the bridge of his nose, a headache pounding in his temples. He turned to his first officer, Commander Jackson, her face grim. "Assemble the away team, you and Dr. Nakamura with me, and stay alert. I don't like this." Jackson frowned at her display. "Sir, long-range sensors just lit up, detecting multiple ships, Denobulan configuration, a whole damn fleet, heavily armed. They're not here to talk, Captain." A chill ran down Reyes's spine. This was no longer just a diplomatic mission. The stakes had just gotten a hell of a lot higher. The Denobulans were on the warpath. If he couldn't convince the Sire Father here and now that humanity should be allies, not enemies, then this wouldn't just mean the end of the Intrepid. It could be the end of the human race itself. As the shuttle descended through roiling purple clouds, the Sire Father's palace came into view, a vast pyramidal structure adorned with grisly carvings of alien deaths and Denobulan triumphs. Reyes stepped onto the scorched earth of the landing pad, the acrid stench of sulfur and ash burning his nostrils. A phalanx of guards surrounded them, insectoid faces chittering, forming a wall of chitin and blades. They marched into the palace, footsteps echoing on obsidian floors. The throne room was cavernous and cold, lit by guttering green flames. At its center sat the Sire Father herself, perched on a throne of bone-white alien skulls. Her black eyes glittered with malice. Towering to her full height, she looked down at Reyes like something she'd scraped off her boot. "You enter the presence of Sire Father Vizcazun. Grovel and I may let you live, human." Reyes lifted his chin and stared back, unflinching. He had to make this work. The survival of billions rode on his next words. All of humanity was counting on him. He stepped forward and began to speak. Reyes stepped forward, his heart hammering in his chest. He had one shot to make this work, to convince the Sire Father that humanity was not her enemy. "Sire Father Vizcashun, I come before you not as a conqueror, but as an ally. Humanity seeks cooperation, not conflict. We believe our 2 peoples have much to gain from a partnership." The Sire Father lounged back on her throne, her expression unreadable. "And what could your primitive species possibly offer us?" Reyes pulled out a datapad, flicking through images. "Humanity has made great strides in science and technology. Advanced medical breakthroughs that can heal wounds and cure diseases. Terraforming equipment to make barren worlds habitable. Power sources that can provide near-limitless clean energy." He held out the datapad. The Sire Father waved a clawed hand and an advisor scuttled over to snatch it, retreating to the throne's side. "This is all theoretical," the Sire Father scoffed. "I will not base an alliance on empty promises." Reyes tapped his comm badge. "Reyes to Intrepid. Send down the package." Moments later, a hum filled the air as a shuttle descended into the palace courtyard. The ramp lowered, revealing crates of equipment. "A gesture of goodwill," Reyes said. "Examples of our technology for your experts to examine." The Sire Father's advisors swarmed the crates, prying them open, chittering excitedly as they pulled out sleek devices. Medical scanners, atmospheric processors, a glowing fusion reactor prototype. One advisor ran some scans, then turned to the Sire Father, speaking rapidly in clicks and hisses. The Sire Father's eyes widened fractionally. Reyes pressed his advantage. We're offering to share this technology. All we ask in return is access to your star charts to expand our knowledge, and perhaps in time, to trade for some of the rare resources your people control. The Sire Father drummed her claws on the arm of her throne, advisors clustering around her, arguing in hushed tones. Reyes held his breath. This was the moment of truth. If she accepted the offer. A tremendous boom shook the palace, sending chunks of masonry raining down. Alarms blared, guards swarming into formation. Reyes sprinted to the courtyard in time to see the Intrepid swooping and diving, lances of energy flashing as Denobulan warships swirled around it. Treachery! The Sire Father roared behind him. Seize the humans! Armored claws clamped down on Reyes' shoulders. He struggled against the guard's grip. We didn't do this, he shouted. We're being set up. Please let me contact my ship, find out what's happening. The Sire Father loomed over him, eyes smoldering with rage. For a moment, Reyes was sure she would order him executed on the spot, but something in his face must have given her pause. You have 1 minute, human, she spat. Make it count. Reyes lunged for his comm badge. Reyes to Intrepid, report! Static crackled, then grit into his first officer's voice, tight with tension. Captain, the Denobulans opened fire without warning. We're taking heavy damage, shields at 30%. Belay that, Commander, Reyes barked. Someone's trying to start a war. The Sire Father thinks we attacked her. I need you to send over all logs showing the Denobulans shot first. Aye, sir, transmitting now. Reyes held up his hands in a placating gesture as the Sire Father glared at him, her guards twitching with barely restrained violence. Sire Father, I swear on my life we did not attack you. Look at the data. The Denobulans fired on us unprovoked. Someone is manipulating you, trying to sabotage our negotiations. The Sire Father's eyes flicked over the datapad. Her frown deepened. And I suppose you have a theory on who that might be? She asked acidly. Reyes nodded grimly. My guess? A rogue faction. Someone in your government opposed to any alliance with outsiders, probably hoping to seize power in the chaos. For a long, tense moment, the Sire Father just stared at him. Then she turned to her guards. Release him, she ordered, and give him access to our communications network. Let him find the proof to back up his claims. Relief crashed through Reyes. There was still a chance. He grabbed Nakamura. Come on, we need to work fast. Dig through those transmissions, anything that points to who's behind this. If we can expose the real traitor, maybe we can stop this battle before it's too late. As the two of them hunched over the consoles, code flashing across the screens, Reyes tried to tune out the muffled booms and shudders of the space battle raging overhead. The Intrepid couldn't take much more. If they didn't unravel this conspiracy soon. Captain, Nakamura's voice cut through his racing thoughts. I've got something. Encrypted comms, but not Denobulan encryption. I think it's definitely human codes. A sick feeling settled in Reyes's gut as he skimmed the decrypted messages. Whispered conferences, veiled references to removing obstacles and provoking hostilities. All orders issued by General Cavax, Reyes breathed, the Butcher of Tau Ceti. One of the most ruthless Denobulan commanders, a hardliner notorious for his hatred of humanity. And if these messages were to be believed, he had help. Human collaborators, seeking to ignite a war for their own twisted reasons. Reyes compiled the evidence with shaking hands. This was so much bigger than he'd imagined, but now he had the proof he needed. He just hoped he wasn't too late. Reyes's fingers flew across the console, sweat beading on his brow as he and Nakamura sifted through mountains of encrypted data. The palace shook with another impact, dust raining down from the ceiling. Come on, Reyes muttered, eyes scanning rapidly. There has to be something here. Meanwhile, aboard the Intrepid, Commander Jackson gripped the arms of the captain's chair as the ship rocked from another volley of denobulan fire. The view screen was a chaos of swarming enemy vessels. "Evasive pattern Delta," Jackson barked. "Divert auxiliary power to forward shields." The helmsman's hands danced across the controls, sending the Intrepid into a steep dive. A denobulan cruiser overshot, its weapons fire streaking harmlessly overhead. "Engineering, I need more power to the phase cannons," Jackson called over the comms. "We're giving her all she's got, Commander," came the strained reply. "Any more and we'll blow the EPS conduits." Jackson's mind raced. They were outgunned and outnumbered, but not outmatched. Not yet. "Helm on my mark, cut all power and go dark. Make them think we're dead in the water." The bridge crew exchanged nervous glances but readied themselves. "Now!" The Intrepid's lights winked out, its engines falling silent. It drifted, a seeming derelict among the denobulan fleet. "Power up targeting systems. Maintain radio silence," Jackson ordered quietly. "When they move in to finish us off, we hit them with everything we've got." Back in the palace, Reyes's triumphant shout cut through the tension. "I've got it. Transmissions between General Zolara and human extremists. He's been planning this for months." The Sirefather loomed over him, mandibles clicking in agitation as she scanned the evidence. Her eyes widened, then narrowed dangerously. "This treachery will not stand," she hissed. "Guards, arrest General Zolara immediately." But as armored denobulans moved to carry out her orders, the doors to the throne room burst open. General Zolara strode in, flanked by heavily armed soldiers. "I'm afraid that won't be happening, Sirefather," Zolara sneered. "You see, I've taken certain precautions." He held up a small device, its screen showing a map of the denobulan homeworld. Red dots pulsed at key locations. "Bombs," Zolara explained casually. "Powerful enough to level entire cities, and they're all keyed to my vital signs. If anything happens to me, boom." The Sirefather's face contorted with rage. "You would destroy your own people?" Zolara shrugged. "Sometimes one must prune the tree to ensure new growth. Now you have a choice to make. Surrender your throne to me and execute these human spies, or watch our civilization burn." The throne room fell silent, the weight of Zolara's ultimatum hanging heavy in the air. The Sirefather's eyes darted from Zolara to Reyes and back, her mind clearly racing. Reyes stepped forward, his voice low and urgent. "Sirefather, we can stop this, but we need to work together." She studied him for a long moment, then gave a barely perceptible nod. "Very well, Zolara," the Sirefather said, her voice dripping with contempt. "You wish to negotiate? Then let us negotiate." As the Sirefather engaged Zolara in a verbal sparring match, Reyes gathered his team. He spoke quickly and quietly, outlining a desperate plan. Minutes later, Reyes led a small group through the winding corridors of the palace. Commander Jackson, freshly transported down from the Intrepid, moved silently beside him. A handful of loyal denobulan soldiers brought up the rear. They reached the first bomb site, a nondescript maintenance room. Reyes and Jackson worked in tandem, carefully disarming the device while the denobulans stood guard. "One down," Reyes breathed. "Let's move." They raced through the city, neutralizing bomb after bomb. But as they approached the final location, a high-pitched whine filled the air. "Ambush!" Jackson yelled, diving for cover as energy bolts scorched the air around them. Zolara's elite guards had them pinned down, cutting off access to the last bomb. Reyes fired back, his phaser set to stun, but the denobulans kept coming. "We're out of time!" Jackson shouted over the din of battle. "That bomb's gonna blow any second!" Reyes gritted his teeth, preparing for a final, desperate charge. But before he could move, a familiar hum filled the air. The Intrepid descended from the clouds, its weapons blazing. Zolara's forces scattered, overwhelmed by the sudden onslaught. In the confusion, Reyes sprinted for the bomb. His hands steady despite the chaos around him, he carefully disconnected the final wire. The device went dark. The day was won. In the aftermath, the Sirefather stood before Reyes and his crew, her usual imperious demeanor replaced by something almost like humility. "Captain Reyes," she began, "I owe you and your people a great debt. My prejudice and pride nearly doomed us all. I see now that the Denobulan people must change if we are to survive in this new era." She extended a clawed hand. "I propose an alliance between our peoples, one built on mutual respect and cooperation. Will you accept?" Reyes clasped her hand firmly. "It would be my honor, Sire Father." As they began discussing the details of their new partnership, Reyes couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. The road ahead would be prolonged and difficult, but for the first time in a long while, he felt truly hopeful about the future. The fledgling alliance between humans and Denobulans faced its first true test mere weeks after its formation. Alarms blared across the Denobulan homeworld as long-range sensors detected a massive asteroid hurtling towards the planet. "What do you mean you won't share the data?" Reyes demanded, his face flushed with frustration. The Sire Father's mandibles clicked in agitation. "This asteroid enters Denobulan space. By galactic law, it belongs to us." "With all due respect, Sire Father, your people lack the technology to safely divert its course," Reyes countered. "We have the tools and expertise to handle this threat." "So you claim sole rights to our resources?" the Sire Father hissed. "I think not, human." As the argument escalated, tensions in the room rose to a fever pitch. Denobulan guards shifted uneasily, hands drifting towards weapons. Reyes's security detail tensed, ready for trouble. "Wait!" Reyes shouted, holding up his hands. "This gets us nowhere. I propose a joint mission, human and Denobulan crews working together. We pool our knowledge, share the workload, and ensure both our peoples benefit." The Sire Father's compound eyes narrowed as she considered the offer. After a long pause, she nodded. "Agreed, but I will assign Admiral Gortok to oversee our side of the operation." Reyes suppressed a groan. Gortok was notorious for his anti-human stance. This wouldn't be easy. Aboard the research vessel, human and Denobulan scientists huddled around consoles, analyzing the incoming data. Reyes watched as yet another accident disrupted their work, a clumsy Denobulan technician knocking over vital equipment. "That's the third time today," Reyes muttered to his science officer. "This can't be coincidence." His suspicions were confirmed when he caught Gortok smirking after the latest setback. The Admiral was deliberately sabotaging their efforts. The situation came to a head when human sensors detected a horrifying truth. The asteroid was on a direct collision course with the Denobulan capital. Millions would die if it wasn't stopped. "Admiral, we need to alert the Sire Father immediately," Reyes insisted. Gortok sneered. "I think not, human. This data stays with us." Left with no choice, Reyes enacted a desperate plan. Under cover of night, he smuggled the critical information to a trusted Denobulan aide. The news reached the Sire Father, who moved swiftly to relieve Gortok of command. But the Admiral was prepared. In a lightning-fast coup, Gortok's loyalists seized control of key facilities, imprisoning those still faithful to the Sire Father. "The humans have deceived us," Gortok's voice boomed across public channels. "We will handle this threat ourselves and show the galaxy Denobulan might." Reyes watched in horror as Gortok unveiled his insane plan to use the asteroid's kinetic energy as a weapon against the human ships. It was a move born of hatred that would doom millions. With time running out, Reyes gathered his crew on the bridge of the Intrepid. "I know it's risky," he said, outlining his audacious attempt. "But if we can use our experimental warp drive to alter the asteroid's trajectory, we might just save both our peoples." The crew exchanged nervous glances. It was a long shot, with a high chance of failure. But as klaxons wailed and the asteroid loomed ever closer on the screen, they knew it was their only hope. Reyes took a deep breath. "Helm, plot an intercept course. Engineering, prepare to divert all power to the warp drive. Let's save this world." Reyes burst into the Sire Father's chambers, his eyes wild with urgency. "Sire Father, we have a problem. Gortok plans to use the asteroid as a weapon against humanity. The Sire-Father's compound eyes widened in shock. Impossible! He wouldn't dare— I have proof, Reyes interrupted, thrusting a datapad forward. We intercepted his communications. He's going to redirect the asteroid towards Earth. The Sire-Father's mandibles clicked rapidly as she processed the information. This is unconscionable. What do you propose, Captain? Reyes took a deep breath. We use the Intrepid's experimental warp drive to alter the asteroid's course. It's risky, but it's our best shot. The Sire-Father nodded gravely. Do it. But as the Intrepid moved into position, a swarm of rebel ships suddenly dropped out of warp, weapons blazing. The bridge rocked violently as energy beams lanced across the hull. Evasive maneuvers! Reyes shouted, gripping his chair. Return fire! The space around the asteroid erupted into chaos. Loyal Denobulan ships clashed with Gortok's forces, energy weapons crisscrossing the void. The Intrepid weaved through the melee, its phasers firing in rapid succession. Suddenly the ship shuddered. Red alert klaxons blared as Reyes heard the distinctive sound of transporters activating on the bridge. Intruders! A security officer yelled, drawing his phaser. Commander Jackson leapt into action, tackling the first Denobulan boarder to materialize. They grappled fiercely, rolling across the deck. Jackson managed to knock the intruder's weapon away, but another rebel appeared, leveling a disruptor at Jackson's head. No! Reyes shouted, diving for cover as phaser fire erupted across the bridge. When the smoke cleared, Reyes saw Jackson slumped against a console, a ugly burn across his chest. The rebels lay stunned or dead, but the damage was done. Reyes rushed to Jackson's side. Med team to the bridge now! As medics carried Jackson away, the ship rocked again. A nearby console exploded in a shower of sparks. Hull breaches on decks 4 through 7, an ensign called out. Shields at 30%. Reyes gritted his teeth, taking Jackson's place at the helm. Status of the warp drive? Online, but we can't maintain position with all this weapons fire. The comm system crackled to life, and a sneering voice filled the bridge. Give up, Reyes. Your pathetic alliance is finished. Gortok's face appeared on the monitor, his mandibles twitching in barely contained glee. I will crush you and your weak Denobulan sympathizers. There will be no cooperation between our races, only Denobulan dominance. Reyes ignored the taunts, his mind racing. The asteroid loomed larger by the second. They were out of time and options. He stood, facing his battered crew. Listen up. We're going to use the Intrepid itself to generate the warp field. It'll push our systems beyond their limits. We might not survive. He paused, letting the gravity of the situation sink in. Anyone who wants to leave, now's your chance. No judgment. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, one by one, each crew member straightened, tenacity etched on their faces. We're with you, Captain, the helmsman said firmly. Reyes nodded, a lump in his throat. All right, let's save this planet. The Intrepid surged forward, diving straight towards the massive asteroid. Gortok's ships gave chase, but Reyes pushed the engines to their limit, outpacing them. Divert all power to the warp drive, Reyes ordered. Prepare for full warp field generation on my mark. The ship groaned and shuddered as it accelerated. Warning lights flashed across every console. The asteroid filled the view screen, a world killer bearing down on them. Now, Reyes shouted. The warp drive howled as it engaged, enveloping the Intrepid in a shimmering bubble of distorted space-time. The asteroid's surface rushed towards them, filling their vision. And then it was gone. The massive rock sheared away, its trajectory violently altered by the Intrepid's warp field. On the console, Reyes watched as it hurtled harmlessly past the Denobulan homeworld. A ragged cheer went up from the crew, but it was short-lived. The ship bucked and heaved, consoles overloading in cascading explosions. Warp core breach imminent, the engineer screamed over the din. We can't contain it. Reyes closed his eyes, a sense of peace washing over him. They'd done it. They'd saved billions. The Intrepid's hull tore itself apart as the warp core detonated. releasing a blinding flash of energy that momentarily rivaled the Denobulan sun. The blinding flash of the Intrepid's destruction faded, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. Across Denobulan space, sensors registered the asteroid's altered trajectory, now safely bypassing the planet. As the immediate threat passed, the Sire-Father wasted no time in mobilizing her forces. "Find Gortok," she ordered, her compound eyes blazing with fury. "Scour every outpost, every colony. He will answer for this treachery." Reyes, rescued from the Intrepid's destruction by a loyal Denobulan ship, stood beside her on the command deck. His face was etched with grief, but his voice remained steady. "I'll coordinate with our remaining human assets. We'll bring him to justice." For weeks, the hunt raged across Denobulan territory. Gortok's supporters fought viciously, but the combined might of human and loyalist Denobulan forces slowly wore them down. Finally, intelligence pinpointed Gortok's location, a fortified asteroid base on the fringes of Denobulan space. Commander Jackson, his chest still bandaged from earlier wounds, volunteered to lead the assault. "Are you sure about this?" Reyes asked, concern evident in his eyes. Jackson nodded grimly. "Someone's got to do it, sir, and I've got a score to settle." The raid began under cover of an asteroid field. Jackson's team, a mix of humans and loyal Denobulans, used the rocky debris for cover as they approached the base. Suddenly, energy beams lanced out from hidden emplacements. "Contact!" Jackson shouted, diving behind a jutting piece of rock. "Return fire!" The air filled with the sizzle of energy weapons and the acrid smell of burned rock. Jackson's team advanced meter by meter, taking cover where they could. A Denobulan rebel popped up from behind a barricade, aiming at Jackson's exposed flank. "Commander, watch out!" A human ensign tackled Jackson, the energy bolt scorching the ground where he'd been standing. Jackson nodded his thanks, then shouted into his comm, "We need to breach that main entrance! Bring up the charges!" As his team laid down suppressing fire, two soldiers sprinted forward with explosive packs. They slapped them onto the reinforced doors, then scrambled back to safety. The explosion rocked the asteroid, debris raining down around them. Through the smoke, Jackson saw a familiar figure fleeing deeper into the base. "It's Gortok!" he yelled. "Don't let him escape!" Jackson charged forward, his team providing covering fire. He rounded a corner and came face to face with the rebel leader. Gortok snarled, raising his weapon. Two shots rang out simultaneously. Gortok stumbled backward, his weapon clattering to the ground. But Jackson felt a searing pain in his side, collapsing against the wall. As darkness closed in around him, Jackson saw his team swarm Gortok, subduing the wounded rebel. His last thoughts before losing consciousness were of satisfaction. Mission accomplished. Aboard the Sire-Father's flagship, Reyes paced anxiously outside the medical bay. The doors hissed open, and a Denobulan doctor emerged. "How is he?" Reyes asked. The doctor's mandibles clicked. "Commander Jackson will survive, but his recovery will be lengthy. The energy bolt caused significant internal damage." Reyes let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. "And Gortok?" "Under heavy guard in the brig," the doctor replied. "The Sire-Father wishes to speak with you about his impending trial." In the Sire-Father's private chambers, Reyes found the Denobulan leader staring out at the stars. "Captain," she began, turning to face him, "Gortok's crimes extend far beyond treason against the Denobulan people. His actions threatened both our worlds. I believe it is only fitting that humanity have a voice in his trial." Reyes nodded slowly. "I agree, but who—" The Sire-Father held up a clawed hand. "I'm asking you, Captain Reyes, to serve as the human representative on the trial council." Reyes felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. He thought of his lost crew, of Jackson lying wounded in sickbay. "I accept," he said firmly. Days later, Reyes stood in the imposing Denobulan High Court. The room buzzed with tension as Gortok was led in, flanked by guards. The former general's eyes narrowed as he spotted Reyes. "So," Gortok sneered, "the Sire-Father brings a human to sit in judgment. Our once proud empire truly has fallen. Reyes met his gaze evenly. This isn't about empires, Gortok. It's about justice for all the lives you've destroyed. As the trial began, Reyes listened intently to the litany of charges. When it came time for cross-examination, he rose, datapad in hand. General Gortok, Reyes began, his voice steady. You claim your actions were in defense of denobulan purity, yet your own communications show you were willing to sacrifice millions of your people to further your agenda. How do you reconcile this? Gortok's mandibles clacked angrily. Sometimes sacrifices must be made for the greater good. You humans are too weak to understand. Reyes tapped his datapad, bringing up a holographic display. Let's examine that greater good, shall we? The courtroom fell silent as Reyes concluded his questioning. Gortok's eyes burned with hatred, but he had no rebuttal. As the trial concluded, the Sire Father's compound eyes swept across the chamber. The evidence is clear, she declared. Gortok, you are stripped of all rank and sentenced to exile on the farthest reaches of our territory. As guards led the disgraced general away, Reyes felt a weight lift from his shoulders, but there was no time to rest. The Sire Father beckoned him to a private chamber. Captain, she began, her mandibles clicking softly. Your actions have saved both our peoples. Now we must build on this alliance. She activated a holographic display, revealing a sleek starship unlike any Reyes had seen. Behold the Pax Galactica, our first joint venture. I want you to command her maiden voyage. Reyes studied the ship's lines, a mix of human and denobulan design elements. It would be an honor, Sire Father. Choose your crew wisely, she cautioned. This mission's success is vital. In the following weeks, Reyes pored over personnel files. He tapped Dr. Nakamura, his longtime friend and confidant, as Chief Science Officer. The Sire Father insisted on assigning her protege, Admiral Cranach, as second in command. When Reyes voiced concerns, she waved a clawed hand. Cranach is headstrong, but exposure to your methods may temper his aggression. The day of launch arrived. Reyes stood on the bridge, surveying his mixed crew. Humans and denobulans worked side by side, an unprecedented sight. As they cleared the spaceport, a palpable tension filled the air. Their shakedown cruise started smoothly, but cracks soon appeared. In engineering, a human technician and denobulan counterpart argued over power allocation procedures. You can't route plasma flow that way, the human shouted. It's inefficient. The denobulan's mandibles flared. This is how we've done it for centuries. Reyes intervened, forcing a compromise, but similar incidents cropped up throughout the ship. In the mess hall, dietary restrictions caused friction. Training simulations devolved into cultural misunderstandings. Cranach's booming voice echoed through corridors as he dressed down a human ensign for a minor uniform infraction. Reyes pulled him aside. Admiral, we need to present a united front, Reyes urged. These punitive measures... Cranach's eyes narrowed. Discipline is the backbone of any military operation, Captain. Your lax human standards will get us killed out here. Before Reyes could respond, alarms blared. Captain, to the bridge, a voice called over the comm. They raced to the command center. On the monitor, a massive shape loomed against the star field. Report, Reyes barked. Sir, we've detected an enormous vessel, the sensor officer replied. It appears to be drifting. As they approached, details emerged. The ship dwarfed the Pax Galactica, its hull covered in intricate patterns and unfamiliar script. No life signs detected, Dr. Nakamura reported, studying her console. But these energy reading, Captain, this ship contains technology beyond anything we've encountered. Cranach leaned forward, mandibles twitching excitedly. We must seize this vessel immediately. Its weapons could give us an insurmountable advantage in the sector. Reyes shook his head. This is a peaceful mission, Admiral. We're here to learn, not plunder. Prepare an away team for archaeological study. Cranach's exoskeleton bristled. You would throw away such an opportunity. This is why humans will always be inferior. The bridge fell silent. Crew members exchanged uneasy glances, the racial divide suddenly stark. "You forget yourself, Admiral," Reyes said quietly. "I am in command here." Cranach's hand inched towards his sidearm. Perhaps that was a mistake. The tense standoff was shattered by a violent lurch. Red alert klaxons wailed as the ship rocked again. "The alien vessel is powering up," the tactical officer shouted. "It's targeting us." Reyes sprang into action. "Evasive maneuvers! Shields up!" The Pax Galactica banked hard, narrowly avoiding a searing energy beam. The alien ship unleashed a barrage of weapons fire, each blast rattling the explorer's vessel. "Hull breach on deck 4, someone called out. "Shields at 60% and falling." Reyes gripped his chair, mind racing. They couldn't hope to outgun this behemoth. He turned to the science station. "Nakamura, what can you tell me about that ship's systems?" The doctor's fingers flew across her console. "It appears to be entirely automated, Captain. Some kind of artificial intelligence is in control." Another blast rocked the ship. Sparks showered from a nearby panel. "Sir, we can't take much more of this," the helmsman warned. Reyes made a snap decision. "All stop. Power down weapons. Nakamura, gather every linguist we have. We need to crack that ship's language now." Cranach sputtered. "You would have us sit here defenseless?" "It's our only shot," Reyes countered. "If we can communicate, maybe we can end this." As the barrage continued, Reyes and his hastily assembled team worked feverishly. Human and denobulan linguistics experts huddled over consoles, analyzing the alien script. Hours passed. The shields weakened further. Crew members cast nervous glances at the looming threat on the console. Suddenly, Cranach's eyes widened. He pushed past a human analyst, studying the patterns intently. "There," he exclaimed. "The script isn't just decorative. It's a form of mathematical notation. See how it repeats?" The human linguist gasped. "Of course! It's not a language. It's an equation." With renewed vigor, the team redoubled their efforts. Cranach's tactical insights proved invaluable, helping to crack key portions of the code. Finally, Reyes input the last string of alien symbols into the computer. The translation matrix hummed to life. "This is Captain James Reyes of the starship Pax Galactica," he broadcast. "We mean you no harm. Our scans were not an act of aggression. Please let us talk." For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then a deep, resonant tone filled the bridge. Alien symbols scrolled across the view screen as the ship's AI responded. "Your attack on us was unwarranted," it stated. "Explain your presence or be destroyed." Reyes took a deep breath. Their fate now hinged on his ability to reason with this ancient machine intelligence. He glanced at his diverse crew, human and denobulan alike, all united in this moment of crisis. "We are explorers," he began carefully. "Seekers of knowledge. Your ship represents a remarkable civilization, one we wish to understand and learn from. Our scans were born of curiosity, not hostility." The AI's response came swiftly. "Proof. You will submit to examination." A shimmering energy field enveloped the bridge. Reyes felt a tingling sensation as invisible tendrils of alien technology probed his mind, sifting through memories and intentions. When it ended, the massive cannons of the alien vessel powered down. The AI's tone softened slightly. "Your words align with your thoughts," it declared. "We will share knowledge cautiously, but be warned, any hint of deception will result in your immediate destruction." Reyes let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. He turned to his crew, seeing relief and wonder on their faces, human and denobulan alike. "Well done, everyone," he said quietly. "Now let's see what we can learn." As the Pax Galactica's team prepared to board the ancient vessel, Reyes knew they had only barely averted disaster. The real challenge lay ahead, unraveling the mysteries of this long-lost civilization while maintaining the fragile trust they had earned. He caught Cranach's eye, noting a newfound respect in the denobulan's gaze. Perhaps this crisis had forged something stronger than either of them had anticipated. Together, they stepped towards the airlock, ready to face whatever waited on the other side. The bridge of the Pax Galactica hummed with activity as Reyes and his team pored over the alien script scrolling across their screens. Dr. Nakamura's fingers flew across her console, her brow furrowed in concentration. "Captain, I think we've cracked it," she said, her voice tight with excitement. "The language structure is unlike anything we've seen, but there are patterns, repeating mathematical sequences that seem to form the basis of their communication." Reyes leaned in, studying the intricate symbols. "What have we learned?" Nakamura tapped a series of commands, bringing up a holographic display. "The ship belongs to a race called the Ixir. Their civilization was vast, spanning thousands of worlds. But they vanished, leaving behind only these autonomous warships to guard their former territory." Cranach's mandibles clicked as he processed the information. "So this vessel views us as intruders to be eliminated." "Precisely," Reyes nodded. "We need to convince it we're not a threat, that we're here to learn, not conquer." The Denobulan Admiral's eyes narrowed. "And how do you propose we do that, Captain? This AI has likely been programmed to destroy first and ask questions never." Reyes paced the bridge, his mind racing. He stopped abruptly, turning to face his crew. "We go aboard. Make contact directly." A chorus of protests erupted, but Reyes held up his hand. "I know it's risky, but it's our best shot at establishing trust. I'll lead a small team. We'll use the prototype universal translator to interface with the AI's central matrix." Cranach's exoskeleton bristled. "This is madness, Reyes. You'll be killed the moment you set foot on that ship." "Maybe," Reyes conceded. "But if we don't try, we're dead anyway. Assemble a team of our best technical experts, human and Denobulan. We leave in an hour." The shuttle bay was a flurry of activity as the away team made final preparations. Reyes performed a last-minute check on his environmental suit, acutely aware of the danger they faced. "Remember," he addressed the assembled group, "our goal is communication, not confrontation. Stay alert, but do not engage unless absolutely necessary." The shuttle launched, streaking towards the massive Xir vessel. As they approached, the warship's defense grid sprang to life. Energy beams lashed out, forcing the pilot into a series of wild, evasive maneuvers. "Hold on!" he shouted as the shuttle barrel rolled, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. They screamed towards the alien hull, aiming for a gaping breach. The shuttle scraped through with a screech of torn metal, skidding to a stop in a cavernous hangar bay. Reyes was the first out, his breath misting inside his helmet as he surveyed the alien interior. Eons of neglect had left their mark. Dust coated every surface, and strange vine-like growths snaked along the walls. "Stay close," he ordered, activating his suit's built-in lights, "and keep an eye out for any active security measures." They moved cautiously through twisting corridors, the silence broken only by the crunch of their boots on the decaying deck plating. Suddenly, a high-pitched whine filled the air. "Incoming!" a Denobulan engineer shouted. A swarm of spherical drones emerged from recessed panels, energy weapons charging. The team scattered, diving for cover as the air filled with sizzling bolts of plasma. Reyes fired back, his shots connecting with satisfying explosions. But for every drone they destroyed, 2 more seemed to take its place. "We need to reach the central core," he shouted over the din of battle. "Push forward!" They fought their way through chamber after chamber, the relentless assault taking its toll. Just as it seemed they might be overwhelmed, a deafening crack echoed through the ship. A massive bulkhead gave way, air rushing out with hurricane force. "Seal your suits," Reyes yelled, grabbing onto a protruding conduit as the explosive decompression threatened to suck them into the void of space. The Denobulan members of the team, their powerful bodies built for extreme environments, anchored themselves to the deck. They reached out, snagging their human companions and pulling them to safety as debris whipped past. Working together, they managed to seal off the breached section. Panting heavily, Reyes took stock of their situation. "Everyone okay?" A chorus of affirmatives answered him. They pressed on, finally reaching a sealed door emblazoned with alien script. "This is it," Nakamura confirmed, consulting her scanner. The AI core should be just beyond. Reyes nodded, activating the prototype translator. Here goes nothing. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing a vast chamber. At its center pulsed a colossal crystalline structure, arcs of energy dancing across its faceted surface. Reyes stepped forward, his voice transmitted as a string of alien code. We come in peace. We seek only to learn. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then a deep, resonant tone filled the chamber. Alien symbols flashed across the crystal surface as the AI responded. Your presence is a violation, it intoned. Prove your intentions or be destroyed. Reyes knew this was their one chance. Without hesitation, he reached up and unsealed his helmet, letting it fall to the deck. The rest of the team watched in horror as he stripped off his gloves, leaving himself exposed to the hostile environment. Slowly, deliberately, he raised his bare hand towards the pulsing matrix. Lethal energy arced around him, singeing his skin but not striking him down. We mean you no harm, Reyes said, his voice steady despite the pain. We only wish to understand, to preserve the legacy of the Xyre. The AI's probe was invasive, sifting through every facet of Reyes's being. He fought to keep his mind open, to show the depth of his sincerity. After what felt like an eternity, the energy withdrew. The AI's tone softened almost imperceptibly. Your words align with your thoughts. We will share knowledge. Reyes let out a shaky breath, relief flooding through him. Thank you. We promise to honor the trust you've placed in us. As the AI began to recount the tragic history of the Xyre civilization, Reyes turned to his team. Their faces showed a mix of awe and newfound respect. Even Cranach seemed impressed by the human captain's actions. Let's get to work, Reyes said, a smile tugging at his lips. We have a lot to learn. The bridge of the Pax Galactica hummed with nervous energy as Captain Reyes studied the holographic display of the remote star system. Red icons representing the hidden resonators blinked steadily, a deadly trap waiting to be sprung. All stations report, Reyes ordered, his voice steady despite the weight of billions of lives resting on their audacious attempt. Engineering ready, Captain, came the response from below decks. Quantum resonance generators primed and waiting your command. Reyes nodded, turning to his tactical officer. Weapons? All systems operational, sir, though I doubt they'll do much good against that armada. Let's hope we won't need them, Reyes replied grimly. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. Helm, take us in, nice and slow. The great ship glided forward, a lone minnow venturing into shark-infested waters. Tension mounted as they penetrated deeper into the system. Suddenly, proximity alarms blared. Multiple contacts, the sensor officer shouted. Cloaked vessels decloaking all around us. The view screen flared to life, revealing a sea of alien warships materializing from the void. Their angular obsidian hulls seemed to drink in the starlight, interrupted only by pulsing crimson energy nodes. The Pax Galactica found itself at the center of a vast, closing sphere of hostile vessels. A harsh, grating voice cut through the stunned silence of the bridge. Attention, inferior species. You have entered territory claimed by the purifiers. Prepare for cleansing. The view screen shifted, revealing a nightmarish visage. What might have once been an organic being was now a grotesque fusion of flesh and machine. Glowing red optics studied the bridge crew with cold disdain. I am Exor, the being intoned. Your existence offends the purity of the cosmos. You will be erased. Reyes stood tall, facing the alien tyrant. We came here to talk, Exor. There's no need for further bloodshed. A sound like grinding metal emanated from Exor. Laughter, Reyes realized with a chill. Your pleas are irrelevant. The judgment has been made. Execute Extermination Protocol Omega. The space around the Pax Galactica erupted in a storm of weapons fire. The ship bucked and heaved as its shields strained against the onslaught. Now, Reyes bellowed. Deep in the bowels of the ship, the Xyre AI's consciousness merged with the quantum resonance generators. A wave of scintillating energy burst forth, saturating the star system with otherworldly frequencies. On the enemy vessels, alarms shrieked as systems failed, weapons powered down, shields flickered and died. Exor's triumphant expression twisted into one of confusion, then fury. "What have you done?" the cyborg overlord raged. This is impossible." Reyes allowed himself a grim smile. "You're not the only ones with advanced technology, Exor. Consider this a taste of your own medicine." But even as he spoke, Reyes noticed something was wrong. The quantum effect was growing, intensifying beyond their calculations. Space itself seemed to warp and bend around them. "Sir!" the science officer cried. "The resonance is out of control. It's creating microsingularities throughout the system." Reyes watched in horror as entire ships, both enemy and allied, began to vanish, swallowed by suddenly appearing black holes. The fabric of reality groaned under the strain of forces never meant to be unleashed. "All ships, emergency evacuation," Reyes ordered. "Get clear of the system now." But even as the words left his mouth, he knew it was too late. A blinding flash seared his retinas as the XIR AI made its final, desperate move. The ancient intelligence poured its entire being into the ship's systems, enveloping the Pax Galactica in a cocoon of temporal energy. The universe twisted, folded, and snapped. When Reyes blinked away the afterimages, he found himself staring at an alien starfield. The hostile armada was gone. So was any trace of the star system they had occupied moments before. "Report," he croaked, his throat dry. "Captain," the science officer whispered, her voice trembling. "According to stellar cartography, we're not just somewhere else. We're somewhen else. The entire sector we came from, it doesn't exist anymore." Reyes sagged into his chair, the full weight of what they'd done crashing down upon him. They'd saved humanity from extinction, yes, but at what cost? An entire swath of the galaxy erased from time itself. He reached down, fingers brushing against a piece of charred metal. All that remained of the Intrepid, the ship and crew he'd sacrificed to buy them this chance. Closing his eyes, Reyes took a moment to mourn all they had lost. But there was no time for extended grief. Opening his eyes, he stood and faced his battered, shell-shocked crew. "I know you're all scared," he began, his voice gaining strength. "We've been through hell, and we've lost more than we ever thought possible. But we're still here. We're still fighting. And as long as we draw breath, the spirit of humanity, of the Denobulans, of the Zaire, lives on." Reyes looked each crew member in the eye, seeing fear give way to purpose. "Our mission has changed. We're no longer just explorers or defenders. We are the guardians of our shared legacy, the seed from which a new, better future will grow. It won't be easy, but together, we'll forge a path through this new cosmos, a path of unity, of resilience, of hope." As he spoke, Reyes felt the ship respond. The Gore AI, now forever bonded with the Pax Galactica, hummed with newfound purpose. The great ship's engines flared to life, propelling them into the unknown. Reyes took his seat, his posture straight and eyes clear. "Helm, set a course. Let's see what this new universe has in store for us." The Pax Galactica streaked into warp, carrying with it the last embers of 3 great civilizations and the promise of something greater yet to come.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.